Fawaz Gerges is a professor of international relations at the London School of Economics. Fawaz, have you ever seen a threat to assassinate a head of state posted on social media?
Good morning. No, I have not, and it's illegal. In the United States, after the Vietnam War, the American now system, a legal system, prohibits a US president to assassinate a foreign leader. So this is illegal, but we know Donald Trump does not really care about the legal system or the rules, the international based international rule system. I think at the end of the day, it seems to me that evidence is growing that Donald Trump plans to take the United States into war against Iran. The question when he called on Iran, he called for unconditional surrender. Translation, that means Donald Trump is not really interested in diplomacy. And I think what Iran is presented now are the unconditional surrender, which is great humiliation, or basically fight to the end. And the Iranian leaders seems to be basically deciding to resist and fight to the end, because the other choice means the destruction of the regime from the inside out.
If there were currently space for diplomacy to find a peaceful solution between the two combatants, would American intervention destroy that possibility? Because if America intervenes, does that then mean the Islamic Republic and its leaders have no choice but to fight to the end? Because to not do so against the evil enemy that they've been talking about for decades, then that would be a humiliation for Tehran.
Well, I think you're asking a very important question, but I think we're missing the bigger, picture. The bigger picture is not really about Iran's nuclear program. The American intelligence assessment, this is a combined American intelligence assessment, found that Iran was not actively pursuing a nuclear weapon, and Iran was at least 3 years away from having the ability to acquire a nuclear weapon. This is the combined American intelligence assessment. So the question is not really about whether Iran was reaching a point of no return to acquire a nuclear weapon, as Israel has been claiming for the past few years. I think you're talking about bigger objective, bigger aims. First is to divert attention from the catastrophic war in Gaza, to sabotage the diplomatic talks between Iran and the United States. And I think the overarching strategic aim of Netanyahu and his extremist coalition is regime change in Tehran and reshaping and remaking the Middle East in their own image, as they have been saying for the past 2 years, celebrating the fact that they have already changed the face of the Middle East. And Iran is the big prize in this kind of delusional, basically, vision or nightmare of Netanyahu and his extremist coalition.
Have you seen any evidence of what Netanyahu is trying to stimulate in terms of those who are not supportive of their government in Iran coming out and making their opposition known? He's trying to foment unrest from within Iran. Is it working at all?
Well, I think you nailed it. Whether it was against Hamas in Gaza, or against Hezbollah in Lebanon, and now against the clerics in Tehran. What Netanyahu has been trying to do is to instigate a civil war. But just one point about what's happening in Iran. Iran is a civilizational state, like Turkey, like Egypt. Of course, there's a great deal of opposition, domestic opposition, to the Iranian regime because of its intrusion on the daily lives of Iranians, especially by young men and women. But Iranians are extremely nationalistic. The Iranian public now is rallying around their government. This is not an attack against the Iranian clerics. This is an attack against Iran as a state, as a nation. It's against Iranian sovereignty. And the killing of more than 500 civilians. I mean, Iranians see and know what's happening. So far from really instigating an internal revolt against the Iranian regime, I think Israel war is probably will trigger a rallying of national sentiment around the flag. And that's why it seems to me that even if the United States joins the war, I think what we are witnessing now is what I call an Iraq moment. Both the Israelis and the Americans are really plunging into all-out war with eyes open, and the consequences could be more catastrophic than the consequences of American invasion and occupation of Iraq in 2003, because Iran is a bigger state, and Iran could really trigger a bigger economic crisis in the Gulf, and in particular if it decides to mine the Strait of Hormuz, which is really a lifeline for the energy industry worldwide, not just in the Gulf.
Professor Fawaz Gerges, thank you so much for the analysis. Really appreciate it.